The succession of human cultures before landscape painting is either non-existent or rudimentary, or a very recent development in Europe. Full-blown art of landscape painting has existed only for 4 centuries. In China for no more than 1,000 years. In India, for all practical purposes, never. This is a curious fact that demands explanation. Why should landscapes have found their way into the visionary literature of a given epoch and given culture but not into painting? Posed in this way, the question provides a simple answer. People may be content with the merely verbal expressions of this aspect of the visionary experience, and feeling that for its translation into pictorial terms. But this often happens in the case of individuals asserting like, for example, self-visionary landscapes articulated beyond all that the mortal and perishing nature can produce, and infinitely more perfect and neatly organized than anything seen by the mortal eye. There is the description of such visionary landscape, which, like cave panels, wonders, evening parties. The other evening, walking into a meadow, and at the further corner of it, I saw a float of flowers coming near with the crowd, flushed with flowers, and the mottled coyote in its woolly tones of exquisite pastoral beauty. But I looked again, and it proved to be a living stone, but a beautiful sculpture. Rendered in pigments, this vision would look, I suppose, like some possibly beautiful blending of one of Constable's freshest oil sketches with an animal painting in a magically realistic style. Some programs healed them now and San Diego Museum. A plague never produced anything remotely resembling such a picture. He was content to talk and write about his landscape visions and to concentrate on his painting. But of an individual artist may be true of a whole school. There are plenty of things which men experience but do not choose to express, or they may try to express what they have experienced. It is only removed by words. Yet other cases they express themselves in ways having no immediately recognizable affinity to the original experience. In this latest context, Dr. A.K. Kumaraswamy has some interesting things to say about the mystical art of the Far East, the art where denotation and connotation cannot be divided, and no distinction is left between what a thing is and what it signifies. The supreme example of such mystical art is the Zen-inspired landscape painting which arose in China during the Song period and came to their new birth in Japan 4 centuries later. India and the Near East have no mystical landscape painting, but they have an equivalence case now of painting, poetry, and music in India, where the theme is sexual love, and the Sufi poetry of the and music in Persia, devoted to the praises of intoxication. Bed, as Indian proverb succinctly puts it, is the poor man's opera. Analogously, sex is the Hindu sun, wine, the Persians' impressionism. The reason being, of course, that the experiences of sexual union and intoxication partake of that essential otherness characteristic of all vision, including that of landscapes. If at any time men have found satisfaction in certain kinds of activity, it is to be presumed that at periods when this satisfying activity is not manifest. There must have been some kind of equivalent for it. In the Middle Ages, for example, men were preoccupied with an obsessive, almost maniacal way with words and symbols. Everything in nature was instantly recognizable as concrete illustration of some notion formulated in one's books or legends currently regarded as sacred. And yet, at other periods of history, men found a deep satisfaction with the recognizing of autonomous otherness of nature, including many aspects of human nature. The experience of this otherness expressed in terms of art, religion, or science. What were the medieval equivalents of constable and ecology, of bird watching and Ulysses of microscopy and the reverse of diagnosis and the Japanese haiku. They were to be found, I suspect, in this Saturnalian orgies of one end of the scale and the mystical experience of the other. Shrivel tides, meteors, carnivals. These permit a direct experience of the animal otherness underlying personal, social, and social identity. Infused contemplation revealed the yet otherness of the divine, not self. And somewhere between the two extremes were the experiences of visionaries and vision-inducing arts, by means of which it sought to recapture and recreate those experiences. The art of the jeweler, the marker of stained glass, the weaver of tapestries, the painter, the poet, and the musician. In spite of natural history, this was nothing but a set of dreary, moralistic symbols in the teeth of theology which, instead of regarding words as signs of things, treated things and events as signs of biblical or Aristotelian words. Our ancestors remain relatively sane, and they achieve this feat by the periodically escaping from the sifting prison of their punctiously rationalistic philosophy, their anthropomorphic, authoritarian, and non-experimental science, their all too articulate religion into non-verbal and other than human worlds inhabited by their instincts, by the visionary fun of their minds' antipodes and beyond, yet within all the rest, they indwelling spirit. From this wide range of necessary digression, let us return to the particular case from which we set out, landscapes. As we have seen, are a regular feature of the visionary experience. Descriptions of visionary landscapes occur in ancient literature, folklore, and religion, but paintings of landscapes do not make their appearance until comparatively recent times. To what has been said by way of explanation about psychological equivalence, I will add a few brief notes on the nature of landscape paintings as visionary-induced art. As a vision-inducing art, let us begin by asking the question what landscapes, or more generally, what representations of natural objects are most transporting, most intrinsically vision-inducing. In the light of my own experiences of what I've heard other people say about the reactions to works of art, I will risk an answer. Other things being equal, for nothing can make up for lack of talent. The most transporting landscapes are first those which represent natural objects a very long way off, and second, those represent them at close range. Distance leads to enchantment, to the view, but so does propinquity. A sun painting of faraway mountains, clouds, and torrents is transporting. But so are the close-ups of tropical leaves in the Darwinian versus jungles. When I look at some landscape, I am reminded, or one of my non-eyes is reminded of the crags, the boundless expanses of plain, the luminous skies, the seas of the mind's antipodes, and those disappearances into the mists and clouds, those sudden emergences of some strange, intensely definite form, a weathered rock, for example, an ancient palm tree twisted by years of struggle and wind. These two are transporting, for they remind me consciously or unconsciously of the world's essential alienness and unaccountability. It is the same with the close-up. I look at those leaves with their architecture of veins, the stripes, and modelings. I peer into their depths of interlacing greenery, and something in me is reminded of these living patterns, so characteristic of the visionary world, of those endless bursts and proliferations of geometrical forms that turn into objects of things that are forever being transmuted into other things. This painted close-up of a jungle is what on one of its aspects the other world is like. And so it transports me, it makes me see with eyes that transfigure a work of art into something else, something beyond art. I remember very vividly though it took place many years ago, in conversation with Roger Fry. We were talking about Monia's water lilies. They had no right, Roger kept insisting, to be so shockingly unorganized, so totally without proper compositional skeleton. They were all wrong, artistically speaking. And yet, he had to admit, and yet, I should now say they were transporting. An artist of astounding virtuosity had chosen to paint a close-up of natural objects seen in their own context, without reference to merely human connotations of what's what ought to be what. Man, we like to say, is the measure of all things. For Monet, on this occasion, water lilies were the measure of water lilies, and so he painted them. The same non-human point of view must be adopted by artists who tries to render the distant scene. How tiny, in the Chinese painting, are the travelers who make their way along the valley. How frail the bamboo hut on the slope above them, and all the rest of the vast landscape is emptiness and silence. This revelation of wilderness, living its own life according to the laws of its own being, transports the mind towards its antipodes for primeval nature. There is a strange resemblance to that inner world where no account is taken of our personal wishes or even the enduring concerns of man in general. Only in the middle distance, in what may be called the remote foreground, are strictly dim. When we look very near or very far, man either vanishes altogether or he loses his primacy. The astronomer looks even further afield than the sun painter, and seeing even less of human life. At the other end of the scale, the physicist, the chemist, the physiologist pursue the close-up, the cellular close-up, the molecular, the atomic and subatomic, of that which at 20 feet, even at arm's length, looked and sounded like a human being. Of which at 20 feet, even at arm's length, looked and sounded like a human being in no trace remains. Something analogous happens with the myopic artist and the happy lover. And then teal embrace, personality is melted down. The individual and its recurring theme of Lawrence's poems and novels ceases to be himself and becomes part of the vast, impersonal universe. And so it is with the artist who chooses to use his eyes at the near point in his work. Humanity loses its importance, even disappears completely. Instead of men and women playing their fantastic tricks before high heaven, we are asked to consider the lilies, to meditate on unearthly beauty or of mere things, when isolated from utilitarian context and rendered as they are in themselves and for themselves. Alternatively, or at either stage of artistic development exclusively, The non-human world of the near point is rendered in patterns. These patterns are extracted, for the most part, from leaves and flowers, the rose, the lotus, the acanthus, palm, papyrus, and are elaborated with recurrences and variations into something transportingly reminiscent of the living geometries of the other world. Freer and more realistic than the tenements of nature at the near point make their appearance at a relatively recent date. But far earlier than those treatments of the distant scene to which alone and mistakenly we give the name landscape painting. Rome, for example, had close-up landscapes. The fresco of a garden, which once had adorned the room of Livia's villa, is a magnificent example of this form of art. For theological reasons, Islam had to be content for the most part with the arabesques, exterior as in visions of continually varying patterns based upon natural objects seen at near point. But even in Islam, the genuine close-up landscape is not unknown. Nothing can be exceeded in beauty and vision-inducing power of the mosaics of gardens and buildings in great Umayyad mosque in Damascus. In medieval Europe, despite the prevailing need for turning every datum into a concept, and every immediate experience into a simple in a book, realistic concepts of foliage and flowers were fairly common. We find them carved on the capitals of Gothic pillars, as in the chapter house of Southwell Minster. We find them in paintings of chase, paintings whose subject was that ever-present fact of medieval life, the forest, seen as the hunter or the strayed traveler sees it, in its bewildering intricacy of leafy detail. The frescoes in the papal palace at Avignon are almost the sole survivors of what, even in the time of Chaucer, was widely practiced form of secular art. A century later, this art of the forest close-up came to self-conscious perfection in search of magnificence and magical works of this and was St. Hubert and Polycelos Hunt in a Wood, now in the Ashmolean Museum at Oxford. Closely related to the wall paintings of the forest close-ups were the tapestries which the rich men of northern Europe adorned their houses. The best of these are vision-inducing works of the highest order. In their own way, they are heavenly, as powerfully reminiscent of what goes on in the minds of poets. as are the great masterpieces of landscape painting at the furthest point. Some mountains in their own solitude, mean rivers, which remind locally the blue subalpine world of Titan's distances, the England of constant, the Italy's of turmoil and corruption. The provinces of Cezanne and Ingo, the de France of Sicilies and the Lake de France of Villard incidentally was a spring master of both the transporting close-up and the transporting distant view. His precious wall interiors are masterpieces of vision-inducing art, compared with which the works of such conscious and, so to say, professional visionaries of Blake and Dylan seem feeble and extreme. For the art's interiors, every detail, however trivial, however hideous, even the pattern of the late Victorian wallpaper, the Art Nouveau paper layouts, the Brussels carpet is seen and rendered as a living jewel, and all these jewels are harmoniously combined into a whole which is a jewel of yet higher order of visionary intensity. And when the upper middle class inhabitants of Villard's New Jerusalem go for a walk, they find themselves not, as they had supposed, in the department of seen it was, but in the Garden of Eden, in the other world, which is yet essentially the same as the world, but transfigured and therefore transporting. I have spoken so far only of the blissful visionary experience and its interpretation in terms of theology, its translation into art. Visionary experience is not always blissful. It is sometimes terrible, and there is hell as well as heaven. Like heaven, visionary, hell is preternatural light, and the preternatural and is preternatural significance. But the significance is intrinsically appalling, and the light, the smoky light of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and the darkness visible of Milton. In the journal d'une Schizophrenie, autobiographical record of a young girl's passage through madness. The world of the schizophrenic is called Le Pays de les Clerments, the country of the lit upness. It is a name which a mystic might have used to denote his heaven. But for poor René, the schizophrenic, the illumination is infernal. It's an intense electric glare without a shadow, ubiquitous and impalpable. irreplaceable. Everything that for healthy visionaries is a source of bliss brings to Renee only fear of a nightmarish sense of unreality. The summer sunshine is malignant. The summer sunshine is malignant. The gleam of polished surfaces is suggestive, not of gems, but of machinery and enamel tin. The intensity of existence, which animates every object when seen.